Okay, my name is Aaron Perkins. This is for XRCM 4000, the Business of the Built Environment, part of the Burns School of Real Estate and the Built Environment, which is part of Daniels College of Business at the University of Denver. Today, we're going to learn a little bit about estimation of construction processes, and fortunately, I happen to know a few, and this is one of the best right here. I'm with Mr. Bob Stahr of Bully & Andrews General Contractors. Bob, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
First, let's talk a little bit about Bully & Andrews. Like, what kind of size company would you say this is?
We're on the larger size. You know, we've been in business since 1891. We do work in multiple markets: higher education, hospitality, healthcare, which is where we know each other from, high-end residential. You know, we'll do some industrial and other types of jobs, but you know, in Chicago, we do around $350 million worth of work a year. So I think that puts us in the top 12 to 15 in the city.
Okay.
So,
And do you do much work outside of the Chicagoland area?
as clients that we've done business before take us to other areas, we will do that. We have a few superintendents who travel. We did recently open an office in Indiana as well, so we are pursuing more work there to grow our company.
Okay. And so, how does location play into your role as an estimator? The location of the project?
Well, the location of the project is important. In the Chicago market, it's a big market. It's a big geographical area. You're going from Wisconsin to Indiana in the whole northeast corner of the state. And for instance, when you're choosing subs, electrical trades here in Chicago, because Chicago is a big union town, certain electricians are signatory to certain unions. So they don't work in, for instance, Lake County, which is to the north, or they don't work in DuPage County to the west. They only work in Cook, which is the central county that Chicago's in. So you have to kind of craft your bid list sometimes, and choose the subs who want to do work in that regional area. Because somebody from the south has enough work down there, they may not travel all the way up north towards Wisconsin, and vice versa.
And I assume that, say, doing work downtown has a different cost than doing it out in the suburbs. I don't know, maybe that's not a big differential.
There's a lot of interior work, office work in the city. There is the inherent, you know, where do people park, deliveries, dumpster removal, some of that stuff has to be done at night. So there are costs with that. Those jobs tend to go very fast. So there are differences in that, yes.
Okay. So I assume that Bully & Andrews does a whole range of services. Do you provide conceptual or preliminary estimates as well as detailed?
We'll take it from a conceptual standpoint, where we have a client call us and say, I want to build a 60,000 square foot shell that will eventually be a medical office building, and we'll pretty much tell them, okay, it's going to be so many dollars a square foot based on this set of parameters. We'll take that, because at that point they're probably looking to buy real estate and see if their pro forma works. You know, if they're ready to the next step where there's an architect engaged and we have some preliminary drawings, we'll price that. We'll take it all the way through to the bid drawings.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's get to the final detailed estimate. Once you get the bid documents from the architect or the owner, what kind of process do you go through?
It's pretty much a standard process. You want to get your drawings and the bid documents to your subs, because they're the biggest portion of your bid. And in a case where you have a fully designed set of drawings, the owner is telling you, you've got 2 weeks to bid this. So the more time that the subs have to look at the drawings, the better. So first thing I do is I set up our FTP site and put the drawings on there electronically. Then I go and look at the drawings and see what are the trades involved, create the bidders list from those trades and get those invites out right away. That way the subs can start looking at the drawings. They'll take a few days to start looking at them while you can then concentrate on starting to fill in your spreadsheet with the scope. And as the questions come in, maybe there's some scope that the sub will tell you about that you need to add. You'll get some scope from hopefully the pre-bid meeting that will feed into that. And at that point, some of the stuff you're going to price yourself, like if you do carpentry work and count up all the doors and all that sort of thing, self-perform work, yes. And as the numbers come in, that same spreadsheet, we start inputting the sub's information, but we read through the proposals, enter in the scope, and then we're like, oh, he's missing X, Y, and Z. We need to add $5,000 for this. We need to add to equalize those bids. That's the most important part, is equalizing the bids. So you're choosing the lowest sub come bid day that has everything that they need to have.
I assume there's a lot of back and forth on the phone with different subs, and you know, did you cover this? Do you have that, etc.
Yes, and email.
And do you find that you usually get enough time in the bid duration to, you know, get an adequate number together? I guess it varies a lot from job to job.
It varies on the complexity.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're bidding a job and when your key subs estimator or whoever's on vacation, they're shorthanded, you're trying to get a bid out of them because you know they're going to be competitive, or you're bidding something near Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or some other holiday. It's all, that's what makes it interesting. Every job's different, every project's different, and how it's delivered and its complexity.
Regarding the pre-bid meeting and the site visit, how important are those to you?
I think they're important. I mean, the pre-bid meeting, the owner's might tell you some things that are not explained on the documents. What elevator can I use? When can I do this work? You know, does this have to be done at night? Can I do this during the day? And the site visit will then confirm, usually those two go together, the pre-bid and the site visit will confirm those things, and may have you ask other questions that are not really conveyed well on the drawings, that now you see, oh, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
You know, unforeseens if there's asbestos.
So, you know, if a guy or a woman wanted to get into this type of work, what would they expect to be making, say, you know, in a range of salary and an entry level, you figure?
Well, entry level estimating, since they don't have the experience, they're going to be in that same range as an entry level project manager or project engineer. It's going to vary into what part of the country you're in, but I'm going to say they're probably in the 45 to 55,000 a year range. That's what it seems like the kids coming out of college are looking for.
And then somebody who's been in the business a long time, who's, you know, seasoned pro, what do you figure they make?
Seasoned estimators, they're going to be 100 to 150,000 a year.
In this book that we're reading for this class, it's by Dr. Barbara Jackson, who's the chair of our department. And I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but she basically, in the portion of the estimating portion, says something like, estimators are risk takers. They're calculated risk takers, but risk takers nonetheless. And that's one reason why they are the most respected and highest paid individuals in the industry. Would you would you agree with that?
I would say we're risk takers, but we're also mitigating risk. You know, there is that risk. You don't want the company to lose money, but you want them to make money too. So we look at jobs somewhat differently than a project manager might. We're looking at ways to not cut a corner, but to do things differently. Let's say you're building a building out in a farm field, and it has a basement. You got a lot of dirt you need to get rid of because you can't put it on the site for whatever reason. Maybe the site next door needs some dirt, you know, and maybe the other general contractors don't think of that. You know, there's lots of different ways to deliver a project, and that's where we come in, is how can we deliver this the most economically How can we deliver it the fastest? Because ultimately, the quicker we can get it done, the less time we're there with our superintendent and everybody and our staff, the lower our price can be and the better chances we have of winning the project. You know, from a design build or a delivery where you've already have the project, you're bringing to the table the option to value engineer and help get your client the best project for the least amount of money. That's the value that we deliver at that point. So,
I would imagine that your job is fairly stressful. Like, my job has quite a bit of stress in it as well, but I would think that going to sleep at night thinking, if I was an estimator, thinking, you know, what did I forget about that? Am I going to lose, you know, $20,000 or $120,000 or $220,000 on this job? Does that ever bother you? I understand that you do a lot of calculations to avoid that, but
yes, you know, I'll be honest, we use Excel. You can make a math error in Excel just by typing in the wrong thing. That's why you're always checking. You know, some other companies use a CAN program. We just found plain old Excel is the most user-friendly because we can customize it to what our customers and clients are looking for. But there's that inherent risk of putting something in wrong. So we're always double-checking. Subs can make the same mistakes, which is why estimators, when we're bidding a job, we hate to get only one bid in a trade because we don't know sometimes if they're right, especially if it's a big complex trade that we don't normally price. If it's a carpentry trade and we've already priced up the carpentry, we at least have our own number to check it against. Yeah, there is some stress. It's all in how you manage it.
and so that's one of the cons to the profession. But you know, in general, what would you say the pros and cons to your profession are?
Well, there's no difference in that sort of stress than there is with the superintendent who's out in the field and the sub won't call him back and he's waiting on a delivery and he's late. The superintendent has that sort of stress. They're out in the field, and I think certain people are suited to be in the field, certain people are suited to be more in the office. You know, estimators get a chance to meet clients and a lot more from a sales aspect than do the superintendents. They're more in dealing with the subs and the problems with the jobs. Estimators don't have to do billings, don't necessarily need to do meeting minutes most of the times. So we don't have to do some of the mundane paperwork that a PM or superintendent may have to deal with. I'm kind of speaking both pros and cons for everything here, but
Sure.
I like to look at estimating. There's a satisfaction with it. There's a satisfaction being able to take a set of drawings, or even earlier a conceptual project, and being able to deliver a fully built building. Even though you didn't build it, you built it financially. It's kind of like playing football. You know, you're trying to build your team with the best players, your subs, and being the most creative way of winning it, and you get that satisfaction. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a winning project under their belt?
I guess there's a lot of satisfaction in just winning the bid. Of course, there is that. In my mind, there would be that constant nagging feeling like, what did I leave on the table? But I assume,
Usually, if you leave something on the table, you know that pretty soon.
yeah.
You know that when you're making awards to subs. You know, there'll be a project here or there where you just underestimated the schedule. It just took longer to build this. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
But,
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk about this with you all day long, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have. So I'd like to thank you very much for taking your time
No
out of your
problem.
day, and thank you much for listening as well.